Macca's Guides.
Hey everyone, Macca here, playing Wolong Fallen Dynasty, and in this video I'm going to make a little bit of a guide on how to beat the first boss in the game, likely the first place you may get stuck, and one of the more difficult battles in the game. Now this boss fight is supposed to function like a little bit of a tutorial, but the game doesn't really do a very good job of explaining to you all the mechanics within it, especially if you haven't played Sekiro before, which this game heavily borrows from. Now some of these tips may be a little bit obvious, but will get more and more complex kind of as we go. The first thing you want to keep in mind is your morale rank, which is the number shown near the bottom middle of your screen while you're in battle, and this will affect your overall strength in a fight. It will also allow you to cast spells based on your current morale rank. Another important number is in the top right of the screen, known as the fortitude. This is basically your lowest possible morale rank if you were to die. You raise this by getting battle flags and battle markers. A couple of other things you want to pay attention to are making sure that you use your coins to level up when possible, use a set when equipping armor to potentially get a bonus, and make sure that your equipment weight stays in the green or blue category so that you're not overweight. So I'm going to go a little bit into depth about the mechanics that you'll experience during battle. At the end, I'll give you the actual strategy for the boss, but the strategy is not going to really help you unless you understand what you're looking at. The most critical part to winning fights in Wolong Fallen Dynasty is using spirit and the spirit gauge. Your spirit can be found underneath your health bar at the bottom of the screen, and it goes either left or right into the blue or the red. It will go in the positive direction if you land an attack or perform a successful deflection, and this is the key part of winning at this game: deflecting. Think of this almost like your stamina bar. You're going to need this bar if you want to dodge or perform a wizard spell or perform a martial art. Additionally, when your spirit bar is in the blue, it will increase the power of your attacks, so you want to make sure you are deflecting successfully. Also, if your spirit bar ever gets all the way to the left, it will break your stance and basically stun lock you, opening you up for a devastating attack, often leading in death. Now, the enemy you're fighting will also have a spirit gauge, although theirs works a little bit differently. Dealing damage to an enemy in any way will shrink the upper and lower limits of their spirit gauge, and this is important for breaking their posture. Basically, the goal here is to push this bar over to the left by dealing damage consistently over time without taking much of a break. This will open them up for a fatal strike and take off a massive amount of health. Next, you want to apply these rules to what is actually available to you while in battle, and that is using the left bumper in order to guard or using the B button to deflect. Both of these are extremely useful and extremely important in different scenarios. Guarding is obviously going to be helpful in minimizing the damage taken when an enemy hits you if you don't know what that attack looks like. If you do know what that attack looks like, you're going to want to try to deflect it by timing a dodge into it. Something people may not notice right away is that the difficulty of deflecting is based on the primary weapon you're holding. If you're finding it hard to deflect, you may want to change your weapon to something faster. Now, the most important mechanic in the first boss fight and throughout the game is the ability to deflect an enemy's critical blow, which is when they start glowing red and attacking you. The goal here is to deflect into the attack at the last possible moment. This will allow you to do a counter so that you negate the damage and heavily influence their spirit gauge in the negative direction. You just want to be careful in making sure you're not spamming deflect, or else you'll dodge into the attack and it won't be countered. Another thing you want to keep an eye on are your martial arts, shown in the bottom right hand corner and activated with the right bumper and X or Y to attack. These are basically powerful attacks that consume a large amount of your spirit and are able to break through an enemy's guard in order to do a lot of damage. You basically want to use these to punish the enemy after a successful deflect when they are defenseless. Below that, you also have your wizardry spells, which aren't very useful for the first boss fight, but basically you can equip spells, cast those spells using your spirit in order to influence the fight to your advantage. Alright, it's now time to get into the strategies for the actual first boss and both of the phases. In the first phase, it is very advantageous for you to just play as aggressively as possible. And what that means is try to be in his face and attack with quick attacks as much as possible. Your goal here is to get your own spirit gauge into the blue and then punish with martial arts or heavy attacks. If any space is created and they go for a critical blow, it is imperative that you deflect it successfully. This is basically what the tutorial is trying to teach you, to deflect enemy critical blows. You can see the giant effect that deflecting an enemy critical blow has on the spirit gauge, both your spirit gauge and the enemy's spirit gauge. It greatly reduces their upper and lower limit and gets you so much closer to breaking their posture. Because you're just starting out, you may find yourself getting a little bit too happy with the attacks, just like me on screen here, and you'll find that sometimes you'll get too deep into a combo and you can't back out. You can try to compensate for this by using a faster weapon. After the first phase, we have the second phase, which is pretty daunting at first, but luckily you only have to defeat about 2/3 of their life bar before there's a cutscene that basically ends the fight for you. Now you'll see that I'm doing this fight almost in its entirety with no health in my health bar and no potions to heal with. Basically, what they want you to do is just to survive as long as possible. And the goal here is basically just to deflect attacks that you know and to deflect the enemy critical blows. This is how they want you to beat this fight. You don't have to get too close and you don't have to be too aggressive. You really are just baiting the attacks that you're comfortable with in order to basically optimize for those attacks. I'll slow down the gameplay here to show you exactly what I mean, but one successful enemy critical blow deflection results in basically destroying most of their spirit gauge and allowing me to get a critical strike, which in this case allowed me to get about 1/3 of their health in more or less one attack. Now, a little bit of this does come down to learning the attacks and learning the timing. I found that the sound is very helpful in learning the timing for me. I was able to deflect attacks purely based on sound. And luckily, this enemy only has about 5 or 6 different attacks, and only 2 attacks that really matter to you, which are the critical blow ones, and you definitely want to keep your distance and dodge when possible. But this is basically what the tutorial comes down to. In the first phase, they want you to be aggressive and to use the spirit bar to your advantage. While as in the second half of the fight, they really want you to bait those enemy critical blows. Eventually, once you reach a certain point of the fight, they'll allow you to use your Divine Beast and call it with Y and B. Doing this allows you to instantly end the fight and successfully complete it. You can also just drain their health normally if you want the extra challenge though. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope it was helpful. Share it with a friend, drop a like, and I'll see you soon. Special thanks to everyone on Patreon for supporting the show. Peace.